Hello, guys. My name is Jessenia. I was diagnosed with stage 3 rectal cancer at the age of 35. I am from New Jersey. I am married with one child, 5 years old. Um, I am excited to share my story with you guys, and we're going to get into this. And if I get emotional about it, I'm sorry, but everything is going to come from the heart. And I just hope that this video touches you. When I got pregnant with my son, 5 years ago, I ended up with hemorrhoids. I had a few miscarriages before I actually had my son. So then when I had my son, this one actually went through. I was further in my pregnancy than I ever was. I would say, at a safe spot with my pregnancy. One day I went to the bathroom and I went to wipe and I seen blood. So I honestly started getting so scared. We went to the hospital. When I got to the hospital, they told me they checked everything. Everything was fine with the baby, but they said that I had 2 hemorrhoids, right? So the hemorrhoids, I'm thinking in my head, okay, it's hemorrhoids. So I ran with it for a long time. I was dealing with constipation, bloatiness, and blood in my stool. But again, I felt like it was normal because I thought it was the hemorrhoids. So guys, I went out and bought all the medication you can think about for hemorrhoids. Everything, nothing was working. It was just at one point where I just felt like my the pressure, I was getting this pressure in my butt area. Besides the bloatiness and the constipation and the blood in my stool, I went through this thing where I was getting bad pressure in my butt area. And I was like, God, this is not normal. But like I said, I dealt with the symptoms for so long that I think that my body was just adapting to it, and I learned how to just adapt with my symptoms. Um, this one particular day, I could not take it at all. The pain was so unbearable in my butt area that I was like, God, something has to be going on. Like, if it's constipation, does it make you feel this way? And I put my fear to the side and I called my husband and I told my husband, when you get here, I'm going to go to the hospital. Like, I can't sit. I was in the middle of cooking dinner too that day. I went to the ER, put my fears to the side. Like I said, I went to the ER. And when I got there, this place was jam packed. So now my nerves is bad because, like I said, I fear hospitals. Um, I called my husband and I said to him, I was like, oh my God, I can't do it. It's too many people in here. I'll be waiting forever and I can't sit. They're going to be looking at me weird. I'm going to be pacing. I didn't feel comfortable. So, my husband, being the supportive man that he is, he's like, you're already there. Why don't you just like try to get a check? I wasn't trying to listen to what he was saying. I honestly went and I started going to the door to leave. Something just said stop. I don't know what it was. Maybe a guardian angel. I had previously lost my aunt to cancer maybe a month and a half prior to me being diagnosed. So I was like, um I'm not playing with this. It was just felt like something stopped me at that door and said, girl, turn around and deal with it. So I went and I couldn't sit. So I was just like, walking, pacing. I didn't care at this point if they were looking at me. My pain was unbearable. So I was like, something has to give. When I finally got called to the back and I started telling them my symptoms, the first thing they did check was for the hemorrhoids. And the doctor's like, I don't believe, like, it's hemorrhoids. Like, the hemorrhoids are small. Like, for what you're going through, it just can't be that. So I was like, okay, what else maybe can it be? In my mind, I'm thinking maybe Crohn's disease. As I mentioned, my sister is diagnosed with Crohn's. So I was like, maybe it's something dealing with that. They started running all these tests. I was in there for a while, and then I had a arrogant, rude doctor that came in and basically said to me, yeah, it's either an infection or cancer. Just like that. And I was like, wait a minute. Um, Back up, slow down. That's like something hard for you to say to somebody in that type of way. So I respectfully asked them to leave my room because I didn't like the energy. My nurse came back in and I explained to her how he just told me this like news. And I say God works in mysterious ways and everything happens for a reason, right? When the nurse came in, she was like, can I, speak to you and just like give you some advice? And I was like, sure, because I didn't know what I was about to get myself into. She said, my mom just beat cancer. So I was like, okay. So she was like, I want to be able to, like give you resources for doctors like that she went through. She was like, and the best advice I want to give you is make sure that you advocate for yourself or you have someone that's going to be there to advocate because some doctors, some get in the field just because it's their job and some is in it from their heart. And I just felt like he wasn't the right fit for me. I did end up going with the leads that she gave me, and that was the best decision that I made. I thought I was going home that day, and I didn't. They admitted me to the hospital, and I was in there for about 7 days. And these 7 days, they're running all type of tests, all type of tests. My blood work this whole entire time in the hospital is crazy. Um, I remember when they took me down to the room to get the testing done, the doctor came in to speak to me prior to me to go, to get the test done. And he said to me, he said, I want to tell you, I've been in this field for over 20 plus years, and his energy was beautiful. He was such an amazing guy, like a doctor, like really amazing. But he told me straight up, he said, I looked at your images from the testing that you already had done, and I can confirm that it is cancer, but I can't tell you what stage, what type of cancer just yet. The test that we're going to perform will give you all the answers that we need. My nerves got so bad because now I know I'm going into a test knowing that I do have cancer, but I just don't know where I'm at in the stage. So I start thinking back on everything, like the procrastination, the signs that was there. And I was just like, you know what? Not right now. I can't do that right now. Normally they take you right back to the recovery room. And once you wake up, they're taking you upstairs. The nurse came in and she said, the doctor actually want to speak to you. So it threw me off a little. And I was like, okay. So when he came in, he told me straight up, he was like, I already spoke to your husband. I told him, everything because he did ask me prior, did I want anybody, did he want me to contact anybody? And I said, yeah, my husband, because either way, he was going to be on his way there, and all that. So when he told me that, I honestly was so shocked. I couldn't even say anything. And I think at that point he was like, are you okay? Like, do you understand what I'm saying? And I said, yes, I understand. Um, but I honestly was just in tears because I was scared. I didn't know what the next journey and the next steps was going to be. And, he prayed with me and it made me feel better. Because a lot of doctors are not like that. Once I got sent back up to my room, my husband was there. I caught out of nowhere just a sense of embarrassment. I don't know why. because me and my husband been together for so long, and he's been with me throughout everything. So it's like, I don't know if it was me just scared to let him know, but I already knew the doctor called him, so I knew he knew, right? And we locked eyes, and all he can tell me was, regardless of what it is, you fight, I fight, and we're going to fight together. But one thing I'm going to do is push you. I'm going to make sure that I'm there throughout the whole time with you. And I can say, not one appointment that I went by myself. My husband was always there. Radiation, I never went to no appointments by myself, even though he couldn't go in the back. He sat in a waiting room waiting. Every chemo session, this man was there for me. He, even if I was in chemo and 15 minutes into chemo, I would fall asleep. But that man was literally there the entire time. Um, I think at that point, I still couldn't accept the fact that the news that I was told. So it was like, I was in complete shock. Like, I didn't even know what to say, how to say it, anything. It was just like a weird feeling that came over me. Um, and it was like more scare than anything, like, because you don't know what to expect. So, um, the first question they asked me was, did I have kids? And at this time, like I said, I only had my one son, because I went through complications, with getting pregnant. And then when I had my son, it was just like he was my rainbow baby. Who would have known 4 years later I would be diagnosed with cancer, you know? But when we came to the table with all my doctors, this was with my radiation doctor, the chemo doctor, the surgeon. They all came to the table and basically said, I had two options. The first option was to go straight into surgery, but the tumor was a size, they said it was a size like of a tennis ball. So it was a nice size. So they gave me two options. They either said, we can go in straight up with surgery, but you will live with the colostomy bag for life. I said, no way. No way. I'm still young. I said, there's no way. I said, what's the next option? The next option, to fight it aggressively. So I was like, I didn't understand these terms, because this is all new for me. My husband's sitting there, and we're both taking everything in. And then they said the second option would be, we'll do radiation for about 6 weeks with the oral chemo. Um, I want to say it was like 3,000 milligram of the chemo or more of the oral chemo that I had to take. So I did the 6 weeks, Monday through Friday, with my radiation, as well as taking the oral chemo. Then my body, they let my body take a healing process for about 3 weeks. And then I started chemo through my port. And when I started chemo through the port, I still had to take the chemo orally. So I was beyond sick, like beyond sick. I went from when I first started with my whole cancer journey, I was like 185 pounds. I am now at 149 pounds. So I lost so much weight. And like I said, my blood work always came back so weird. So it was just like, I didn't know what to even think about it, because I was like, if I didn't even start any treatment and my blood work is coming this way, how is my body going to be able to fight this aggressively? But they really made me feel comfortable with my plan. When they broke down everything, I was like, you know what? I have no other option. Let's go for it. So for radiation, I tell people that I didn't really feel pain from radiation, but in my down area, my private area, from the radiation, because my cancer is low, radiation was literally from my sides. So down there, it will have me having like, it felt like, I would say like a yeast infection type or a UTI. UTI might be a better way to explain it. I dealt with that for the entire time of radiation. Now with the pill, the oral chemo pill, that instantly made me so sick where the minute I took it, 5 minutes later, I am like nauseous. I was at a point where I couldn't keep nothing down. It was hard. It was just extremely hard. So the the whole thing from the side effects from that was just like a horrible feeling for me. Horrible feeling. And like I said, I know everybody's situation is different. I spoke to a lot of other cancer patients, warrior survivors, that when I speak to them and I tell them what I'm going through, and I ask them, their their journey is completely different. So I had to stop comparing myself to other people. I had to stop it. And that's when I was like, you know what? I have to change my mindset and the way I'm thinking, the way everything. I had to change a lot of things because I knew it's about to get real. So when he spoke about the surgery part, I honestly was like, I told myself that I was going to take it step by step. So I was worried about getting done my treatments and all that. Then when I finally went to go see the surgeon, who he is such amazing surgeon. When we spoke, he explained to me what everything that I was going to be doing. Um, Throughout, before I spoke to the surgeon that was going to be removing my cancer tumor, I had to go see an OBGYN because my cancer was lower and it was a chance that the cancer could have spread. So I opted into having a full hysterectomy. So it was just a different trying to get myself mentally prepared for that, especially for me because it was like, I only had one child. I was on birth control. So I knew if I wanted another child, all I have to do was get my birth control taken out and, try. So I had to mentally prepare that I know that I'm going into something that I would not be able to have another baby, even if I wanted to. So that was a hard part for me to like grasp. But, me and my husband talked about it and we came to terms like we're content with just having our son regardless of the process. And that was my whole goal. So after that, I just started thinking about the tumor. I started asking my surgeon questions like, is it going to be like a tough surgery? What am I going to experience? And, he told me like, well, him removing the tumor wasn't going to be like as bad. The most it will come from will be from the hysterectomy. Now, when it came to him saying there's a possibility that even after surgery, you might have the colostomy bag. That's when I started losing it because I'm like, what? Like, why? Um, and what I learned was my chemo and radiation only shrunk the tumor a tiny bit. And they needed enough room where the tumor was and where my butt was in order for them to be able to do the surgery. And I'm going to explain it the same way that it was explained to me. And I'm going to demonstrate because I want people to understand. So basically, how my doctor said it to me was, this is the tumor and we're right here, right? And if this is a tumor, this is my butt. Now we're understanding why I could not go to the bathroom, why I was so constipated because this huge tumor was blocking it from coming out. So if I would have opted into getting surgery first, they needed enough room in between the tumor and my butt to be able to do the surgery, and there wasn't enough room. So if I would have did it, I would have ended up with a colostomy bag for life. So when I woke up from surgery, I had the bag put in. I instantly got sick just looking at it. Instantly. I couldn't grasp that. I couldn't even, I didn't understand, I did not understand. Um, I looked at my husband because it was like more like, wow, this is an embarrassment. Like this is going to be an embarrassment for me. Especially for a person that's constantly doing videos, content, and all this. Like, how am I going to live regular with this temporary bag? And I couldn't get myself mentally prepared for that. So what I will say is, once I was in a hospital, and once they came in, they had a nurse come out into the room to teach, to educate me with the whole colostomy bag. I I was so weak that I couldn't even look at it. So the guy trained my husband on how to do it. Um, when he trained him, he had him do it right there. My husband picked up on it so fast that I was like, dude, did you go to like medical school something, or did you do something on the side that you ain't tell me about? Um and then when I got discharged from the hospital, this is when everything started sitting in for me. I started realizing, like, the clothes that I packed, like, to go home in, I was like, oh my God, like, you see this bag through my tights. Like, now I'm thinking in my head, like, everything is about to change for me. Everything is about to change. So in the beginning, I was having so many leaks. My husband was doing everything correct. The nurse confirmed he did everything correct. Um, I was having these leaks, and I was now at this point getting to a point that I was like, I can't take this. This is just now only a couple days. I can't take it. Originally, they told me I was going to be on a bag for 6 to 8 weeks. That's what the surgeon said, but I had the bag for a little over 4 months. Um, I never changed my bag. I never touched it. Uh, I did when I got closer to, I knew that I was about to. I did started getting a little comfortable where I can be able to empty the bag, but actually changing everything and doing all that, it was a no-go for me. It was a no-go. Um, so I really thank my husband for that, because he was the one that honestly took care of me with the entire bag. At this point, I started realizing that, I wasn't going to sit there and just stop my life. My son is involved in a lot of activities, and I just felt like I was going through mom guilt. I was going through mother guilt. I just felt like I couldn't do the things that I normally would do to take care of my family. And I pulled up my big girl panties, and I said, you know what? I'm going to go and get me some sweatpants, oversized. And I learned how to dress with my bag. I got used to it, and that was that. Whatever it is that anybody that's going through in life, don't beat yourself up about it. Don't play the blaming game. Accept the fact of what you have. Accept the fact that you were strong enough to have the strength to go get checked out. And you take it step by step, because if you cram everything in one, you start becoming nervous. You start becoming anxious. You start becoming worried. Everything start hitting you at once, and stress is the last thing you want to go through when you're going through something, what I was going through. So right now, even though I may feel hopeless, I may feel that something else may be wrong, I am still being positive about it. Don't wait until you reach your goal to be proud of yourself. Be proud of every step you take. Bring Ring this hospital bell loud and proud to celebrate your journey. You're Let's amazing. Go. I'm not going to sit on here and say I blame myself, because, at the end of the day, it was going to be my story anyway. I was going to end up with cancer anyway. it was just the timing that God put it in my life and presented it to me. And I will say, God gives the hardest battles to his strongest warriors. And I knew that I was strong, and I knew that I was going to be able to fight it regardless of what my mind was telling me. I kept on repeating to myself, girl, you're going to go in there and you're going to crush it. And that's exactly what I did throughout my whole time. And I will say this, guys, regardless of what you're going through, don't stop living life, because you never know what your situation is going to take you. You don't know. So honestly, I did so much traveling throughout my journey. Not only for that, it was because I was like doing research with like Dr. Sebi stuff, and soursop was coming up a lot. So I wanted to travel because I needed to get my hands on some stuff. So I traveled all over. Like I traveled, I made memories. I wanted to be, if anything was to happen to me, I wanted the people to understand that I came in, I fought, I did what I did, and I never came out negative like to anybody. My positive talking, my videos like touched so many people, and that was my goal. My goal was just to spread the awareness. That's it. Like I tell people all the time, I know it can be scary at times when health issues become, a part of your life, but don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. Please just go get checked out. I don't care what it is, the slightest thing. Here, humans go through constipation. Humans go through bloatiness. Who would have thought those symptoms would have led me to having stage 3 rectal cancer?